Bug-Eyed Tales presents Doggone Mad by Edward Coe.
At the time this affair happened, I was acting as hired man to Mr. Fred Ryan, who owned a decent-sized farm close to St. Paul, Minnesota. The incident occurred during the summer of 1901. Mr. Ryan kept a beautiful retriever dog, which became very attached to me from the first day I entered his service and followed me wherever I went. On the day of my startling adventure, Mr. Ryan and I were gathering in the hay. As usual, Joe, the dog, followed and was most attentive to me, escorting me to and from the field with unfailing regularity. The afternoon was an excessively hot one. Mr. Ryan was engaged in evenly distributing the hay on top of the wagon as I pitched it up to him. When we had nearly completed a load, I stuck my fork in the ground to rest a minute when I noticed that Joe was acting in a ridiculous manner, running round in a circle and snapping at the air as if catching flies. Realizing there was something amiss, I drew Mr. Ryan's attention to the animal's eccentric behavior. After scrutinizing the dog for a moment or two, Mr. Ryan turned ghastly white and advised me to run to the house and ask his wife for his revolver, saying that he feared the dog was displaying symptoms of hydrophobia. When I had covered a considerable distance and again looked round, I thought I should drop, for Joe was heading straight towards me. I was still at least 300 yards from the house, so imagine my alarm. Half paralyzed with fright and not seeming to possess any self-control, I stood rigid, but quickly realized that my only possible chance of escape was by racing the animal and being the first to reach the house. Unfortunately, I had left my hay fork near the wagon, never thinking of bringing it with me, though it would have made an excellent weapon of defense. I collected my senses as best I could and restarted my journey. I literally flew onwards and was within 100 yards of my destination when I gave another glance around and found that Joe was rapidly gaining ground and was still making for me, being now quite close. The very thought of the terrible and painful death which awaited me if I failed to reach the house in time urged me on. I was now only about 50 yards from home, and I gave one more look at Joe, who was foaming at the mouth. Coming nearer the house, I attempted to shout to get Mrs. Ryan's attention to my predicament, but my throat was parched. I could not utter a sound. To my great relief, Mrs. Ryan now appeared at the door, hatchet in hand, preparatory to chopping some wood for the kitchen stove, and noticing my disheveled appearance and Joe's close pursuit, correctly summed up the situation. She dropped the hatchet and hurriedly went indoors. I was now but 20 feet from the hatchet, and just as I reached it and was in the act of picking it up, Joe grabbed my left heel, but fortunately did not succeed in biting through to the flesh. Hatchet in hand, I had no alternative but to await the dog's next onslaught, at the same time slowly edging nearer the door, for I knew if I again tried to run, he would seize me and accomplish his deadly work. My only hope of saving myself was to face him and disable this mad dog. I heard Mrs. Ryan shout, "Gun! Gun!" But just then, Joe rushed straight at me. In his frenzy of rage, he presented a terrible spectacle. I struck full force at the animal's head and happily succeeded in momentarily stunning him, during which brief period I jumped towards the partially open door and snatched the revolver that Mrs. Ryan held in her hand. Meanwhile, the dog was rallying, and as he was in the act of rising, I emptied 3 cartridges into his body, and he dropped dead. I then collapsed. When I regained consciousness, Mrs. Ryan was bathing my face, and Mr. Ryan, who had just arrived on the scene, congratulated me on my miraculous escape. Ever since that day, every dog I see brings the memory rushing back. Even the sight of a harmless, fluffy poodle is enough to make my chest tighten, and more often than not, I find myself on guard with heart pounding. Can you really blame me?
Doggone. What a mad story. Adapted from a true account by Edward Coe when he was a hired hand at a farm in early 1900s America. A time when rabies was a death sentence and no one could outrun a rabid dog. Today, rabies deaths are rare in countries like the United States, which records only 1 to 3 fatalities a year. In Canada, there have been just 5 reported cases since 2000, thanks to widespread vaccination and prompt medical care. But in many parts of the world, the danger remains severe. In the Philippines, dog bites send many unwitting victims to clinics. In India, rabies claims over 20,000 lives annually, with limited access to treatment and large populations of stray dogs fueling the crisis. Even where control efforts exist, bats and wild animals continue to carry and transmit the virus, reminding us that rabies is never truly gone, only kept at bay. If you're bitten, every second counts. Clean the wound immediately. Get a rabies immune globulin RIG shot. Then, 4 vaccine doses over 14 days. Don't take shortcuts, miss even 1 shot, and the virus wins. For animal workers and travelers, pre-exposure vaccination is available. 3 shots before exposure. Once symptoms begin, there is no cure. Vaccinate your pets, report stray animals, never ignore a bite. 1 bite, 1 chance, don't wait.